As you may know, last week Thomas Astruc went to war against a vocal portion of the fanbase regarding the writing of Miraculous Ladybug, with particular emphasis on how the character of Adrien/Cat Noir has been written. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Miraculous is a perfectly written show, which I talk about in my video from last week, but some of the arguments I've seen thrown out against his character haven't really seemed fair and in my opinion have ignored the context of the show entirely. There are two main elements of the fandom's larger critiques of the character. One, that the character himself is unintelligent compared to other characters, and two, that he lacks any sort of meaningful development. So I'll start off with the easiest critique to address. He's stupid. Now this is a concept that's been thrown around for a lot of the characters, and it mostly revolves around how they're not able to figure out who the heroes are, despite their disguises being obvious, and their voices not changing at all. So for this we have to assume that all the characters have a baseline of stupidity unless the show proves that they're not stupid. So everyone's on equal footing at the moment. But I would actually argue that Adrien is written as one of the smarter characters, and here's why. The mystery of the hero's identities may be obvious to us as the viewer, but clearly for the world presented in the show, it's a very hard puzzle to crack. Therefore, to be able to solve it, you need to be smart. Now let's look at the character of Alia for a moment. Now we know she was able to figure out that Nino was Carapace, and that at one point she had suspicions that Adrien was Cat Noir. Now to us, it may seem obvious, and you may scream at the screen that the hair's the same, it's so obvious, etc, etc, etc. But clearly the show's trying to tell us that she's smarter than the rest of the characters for being able to puzzle it out. Astruc is essentially beating us over the head saying, pay attention to Alia, she's smart, listen to her. So if it's heavily hinted that Alia's smart for being able to figure this out, surely the same would apply to Adrien, who off the top of my head has almost figured it out twice at least. In Kwame Buster he thinks that Ladybug might be Marinette and is only thrown off because she intentionally throws him off the scent. And he actually does figure it out in Cat Blanc even though that's an alternate timeline. To me, this is Astruc similarly trying to tell us that Adrien's smart. One of the golden rules of writing is to show, don't tell. And I think that's what's being done. If he constantly has character talk about how smart Adrien is, we just complain that we never see him do anything smart. We want to see it instead. So instead, he's shown us. I think we just need to understand that just because we, the audience, find something obvious, doesn't mean everyone in the show is going to. We need to suspend our disbelief a little bit. The second main critique that people seem to throw out at the character is that he never gets any sort of development, at least in comparison to Marinette/Ladybug. But once again, I'm not sure if that's true. Just briefly, Adrien as a character has gone from the lonely rich kid to a very popular person with heaps of friends. Over time, he started to get closer to his dad again, even though they've still got a bit of a distant relationship. He's lost a lot of the naivety that he had at the beginning of the show. He used to sort of ignore how badly Chloe would act and try to find her redeeming qualities, but he's dialed back on that and now isn't afraid to call her out. He's even come to terms with the loss of his mum and was willing to accept Natalie as a stepmother type figure. There's a lot of other things I could add, but that's the gist of it. Now, I'm not saying that development is perfect, or that it's really deep at all, because it's not, especially in regards to how he acts as a hero. He hasn't really changed in that respect since Season 1. He's still largely the comic relief sidekick kind of character who cracks jokes and pines after Ladybug, but recently, I came to an epiphany. It makes sense that the character of Cat Noir doesn't change over time. Adrien's a bit of a damaged character. He lost his mum, his dad's super controlling, he hardly had any friends until his teenage years. That's why Cat Noir doesn't change. It's the escape from the sadness of his normal life, the persona he puts on to try and escape the pain of his day-to-day. That's why he remains the cheerful Joker character. Because that's what his ideal self is. It's what he thinks a hero should be. The puns and the quips are all part of this persona that he uses to escape life for a few hours at a time. It's probably also why he can't let go of his obsession with Ladybug. He's romanticized being a hero because it lets him forget. And so the person he loves is somebody who can never know who he truly is. So in essence, his minimalist development kind of ties into his character arc. And I think with that context, it makes a lot more sense. Although, I can understand if people are frustrated with that. Cat Noir's a fan favourite, and there's no denying that. But I think he's a bit misunderstood. People think that he and Ladybug need to parallel each other in a lot of ways, particularly when it comes to development. But I think the current status quo makes sense. Marinette gets development as both Ladybug and Marinette, because those two personas are so closely linked together. Ladybug isn't her romanticized belief of what a hero should be as much as it is her own personality dialed up to 10. Cat Noir is more of a persona than anything else, so it makes more sense for him to be stagnant, whilst Adrien develops as a person. Look, I realise that a lot of this stuff is very subjective and it's open to interpretation, and this is just my take on things, and I want to hear yours. Let me know what you guys think.